Welcome into this episode of Coach's Corner. Jordan Woodruff with you with head football coach Scott Harmon. Coach, great to have you along.
Well, thank you for having me.
This episode is brought to you by two guys in a water gun. Need some pressure washing? Give them a call. 580-485-5858 is the number to call. So, Coach, an off week. It's only the third week of the year when you look at it, but I would say maybe a much needed off week to kind of reset.
We felt a lot better about the way we played last week against Enid. When we come in on Mondays and kind of have our good, bad, and ugly meeting, it was very constructive this week. Got to clean up some penalties and some mental mistakes, eliminate some turnovers and big plays, and then I think we're kind of headed in the right direction after a much better performance.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. You want to see improvement. A lot of coaches will have the old adage, you get the most improvement between week 1 and week 2. You did see the improvement, never as much as you want to make, and you love to have the win, but still, great improvement there that gives you a lot of optimism going forward.
Right, when you're talking about not having really a full scrimmage at all, and then going into a 0 week game, it was kind of we put those kids in kind of a tough position. So we wanted them to understand that we understood, and so we were pleased with it. We feel like if we continue to do the small things during this bye week that help us improve last week, we'll take that same step next week against Sand Springs.
So the first year they ever had a 0 week game was last year, and now they got another one this year. So did you learn anything from last year to this year, and how are you managing this off week?
To be completely honest with you, we're looking at adjusting the 0 week for us. I personally feel like the 15, 16, 17-year-old kids do better with another week of preparation before game time, and then also the heat-related stuff that has come into play as a safety issue. I just feel like 0 week, although it helps with some scheduling issues and gives you an extra week, I'm just not so sure that unless you just have a really good, strong program year in and year out, it's beneficial for you.
I was going to say, and this was, you kind of did it last year because of necessity, and now it kind of goes into this year. It's really a coaching preference, right? I mean, there's a lot of coaches that enjoy it, but with the way the district schedule is for 6A, you're not going to get that off week. You'd much rather maybe have that off week, I feel like, in week 7, week 8, which some small schools even get.
Right.
But when it comes to 6A, you're having to take it either week 2 or week 3, and do you really gain as much as you want out of that?
Well, that's what you kind of have to weigh. When we first did it, we had a really experienced bunch of seniors coming back, and they kind of were able to jump in there, and it really wasn't a big shock. And then you see the difference in week 0 from one year to the next year, and it really all played down to experience and preparation. So we feel like extra time is probably a better situation for us. We're going to look into all avenues, but personally, I feel like 0 week is a little too early.
Yeah, well, as hot as it was in Guthrie, I can certainly say it was. And they're saying that's going to, that's the thing. And I remember even the year we played Enid, it was hot over there. I mean, that happens. You just add an extra week early, and it just, that heat really gets you. But you get to this week, look like we're going to get a cool down next week. So it's maybe a good thing not playing Friday night because it's going to be another hot one here in Oklahoma. So talk a little bit in advance. I mean, we'll talk next week too, but Sand Springs, this is a team that last year had a good team. They got a good team this year as well. But you guys in the second half, that was kind of where you first found your offense last season.
Right. The first half last year over there, we turned the ball over 2 or 3 times and just went into halftime as a miserable halftime for us. I remember that distinctly. And we came out and really kind of had a fire lit under our tail a little bit, made a couple of plays, and then our kids started gaining a little bit of confidence in what we were doing. I thought last week our offensive kind of showed what it can do a little bit, and we'll still make some tweaks to that and do some of those things. But defensively, we'll have our hands full. They kind of spread the ball around quite a bit. They've scored a lot of points in both games. So Rolo and those guys will have to, gear down and try to keep them to a lower point total.
And that goes back to your first game against Guthrie and then Enid. I think the two things you wanted to see improvement on was defensively and offensive line on the other side. And did you see the improvement you wanted to see in those two areas?
I say this all the time. I told our kids, when we were in that meeting, it boils down to blocking and tackling. And, I felt like our offensive line was considerably better. They knew that. They're an older bunch of kids. We've kind of moved some around, so they may not have been in their natural position, but they had experience and played much better. And then defensively, we were kind of spoiled the year before, and these young kids really stepped up last week, ran to the ball a lot better, tackled a lot better. There was a lot more gang tackling involved. Like I said, offensively, we got to eliminate turnovers. Defensively, we have to eliminate busted coverages and big plays that happen and giving up easy scores. And if we do that, I told the kids the other day, we'll be a tough draw in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, and I also thought the game, and I'm not on the sideline, I'm up in the booth, but I thought overall the team demeanor looked a lot better against Enid. Now, part of that is when you're getting your butt kicked, it's rough sometimes on everybody. Mm-hmm. But that demeanor I thought was a lot better and more what you want to see there on the sideline.
Right, and we talked about that. I mean, those are things that we can all improve on. Younger kids, older kids kind of have to lead the way. I thought, the week before, the older kids were still a little bit wide-eyed, in my opinion, and so I thought the young kids kind of fed off that, and it wasn't in a great way. But the last week, much better practices during the week. To be honest with you, had Tuesday was probably our most physical practice of the year. Had a couple of scuffles break out. You know what I mean? So it was a heated week of preparation, and I could tell the kids were much more tuned in on Friday night.
What's this week been like with preparation now that you're not really preparing for a Friday night game?
Well, we had freshman JV Monday night. Enid won the freshman game, lost a tight one on a punt return in the JV game. So we gave them kind of a light day yesterday. Tuesday was kind of a Monday for us. Today will be our Tuesday. Tomorrow will be our Wednesday. So we'll really buckle down and get after it today and tomorrow. And then Friday we'll probably back off of them a little bit.
Yeah, so once again, managing a bye week, something that is just new to high school coaches across the state. I mean, if you had a bye week so somebody forfeited, years
right.
ago, or maybe you had that off number in the district, but and you couldn't find a home game or a game. But this is kind of new territory, and it's just interesting talking to different coaches around the state, how they're trying to legislate this. And I'm kind of with you with the heat like it was this year. I think people are looking at saying, you know what, if we move it back one week, it's probably for the best.
Well, and my deal is generally coaches try to back off in the second scrimmage. They really want to go test them in the first scrimmage and get after it a little bit, and then kind of evaluate. Then that second week is kind of a big week, just like you say. From week 1 to week 2 is a big jump, but that's also the same jump that you make from first scrimmage to second scrimmage, and not having one, you can tell a difference.
Yeah, well, Coach, I appreciate the time. We'll talk to you again next week, and we'll have. Last week was the first of a 3-game homestand, even though we have the pause in between for the off week. You got Sand Springs with the last non-district game at Solon Stadium coming up next Friday. And then, of course, you'll start district play with what is expected to be one of the best teams in the state right now in 6A2 with Deer Creek coming in to start district play after that. So not an easy schedule. Let's put it that way, right?
No, we've been through this before, and we talked about it. If we just got to be patient through these first 4 games, and then we'll get to the meat of the district schedule and see where we stand.
Yeah, and playoffs, you'd love to host another one.
You bet. 3rd or 4th place gets to host a playoff game with the new playoff format. So we feel like we'll be very competitive for one of those 2 spots.
All right. Well, Coach, appreciate the time as
Thank
always.
You. I appreciate
Coach
it.
Scott Harmon, and this episode of Coach's Corner has been brought to you by 2 Guys and a Water Gun. Give them a call, 580-485-5858 for any of your pressure washing needs. Thanks to Chris behind the camera as well. Jordan Woodruff saying so long until next time on Coach's Corner, and go Cats.